At 7:22, and from the aftermath of Chicago losing the 2016 Olympic bid, two members of the Obama administration heading to Chicago to talk violence prevention. There's a lot to talk about in politics this week.
Political analyst Thom Serafin joins us this morning. Now, Tom, you've been a consultant for many politicians. Why would somebody advise the president to go to Copenhagen not knowing if we were going to get the Olympics and spend nearly $2 million of taxpayer money?
Well, the only reason you get that kind of advice is if you think the race is that close, and they thought the race was that close, that just a few more votes could make the difference. And you know,
clearly that wasn't the case. We know that now. Clearly that's not the case.
Right. But that's what they went into it. And the mayor called him at the White House, asked him to go. He talked to Valerie Jarrett, who was running that from the White House. Dave Axelrod, his media guy, was in the room when he got the calls from the mayor. I mean, they were uncertain about whether to go, but they were pushed into this saying it was that close.
Was this a no-win situation for President Obama? Because if he didn't go and Chicago didn't get the bid, would everybody today be saying, you didn't go, you're the reason why it's not coming to the United States?
Yes, a no-win situation, although there's so many things on his plate. I mean, we got this terrible problem losing almost a dozen soldiers in Afghanistan over the weekend. I mean, he's got so many other issues. But my attitude was, if Obama knows, Obama goes, because you know you can't advise your president of the United States, your candidate, or your #1 person to do something that puts them in political jeopardy. Political capital is so fleeting. When you have it, you have to use it, but you have to use it wisely and to build more of it. I mean, he spent a lot of political capital on this trip. He wasn't hurt politically at home in the Congress. He wasn't hurt you know, here in Chicago, but he lost some political capital. It makes it much more difficult to deal with the Republican Party and adversaries now in Washington, D.C.
Well,
he lost some of his muscle.
Especially given the fact that we were the first to go out of the 4 cities. What does this mean, do you think, for the political future of Mayor Daley, if anything at all?
Well, I think if you take a look, this is kind of ironic, but if you take a look at the president's political future and the mayor's political future, the mayor is fine. The president, you know, lost some political capital, but the mayor is not harmed at all. The election is a year from now, February of 2011. There's nobody with the testosterone in this city willing to run against him, male or female. He's going to be reelected if he wants to be mayor again. I think he will run again.
You know, I was reading Political.com that was saying that basking in Olympic snub is risky for the GOP, because right after it was announced that Chicago was not getting the bid, quickly on Twitter and some major Republican Twitter accounts, they were saying this is good, this is great, that teaches Obama, you know, a thing or two, and now there's some question over, you know, basking in the glow of that kind of a loss.
Right. Dancing on the grave. I mean, it was ridiculous, absurd. Some people were out there actually pushing their press releases immediately as we got the bad news on Friday. You know, the Republicans have complained for a long time that this president is not pro-American enough. And here on this particular day, when he's making a pitch for an American city in a foreign capital, all of a sudden they step up and say, "Ha ha, you lost." Not being pro-American enough. I mean, just doing the flip side. It was unfortunate that Republicans and some of the conservative commentators took that approach, because nobody wins in this situation. Although, you know, if you take a look at Chicago on the national stage, just being a competitor in this particular process and making it to the Final Four makes us, you know, on the international stage, a world-class city.
Yeah, but on the international stage right now, one of the big stories is the violence among our youth in our city, and some wonder if that played a role in the final decision. It's up to the point now that Obama now has to take his attention away from Copenhagen and put it right on Chicago, sending people here to address that issue.
Well, it's a terrible problem, and it was in the newspapers all over the world. I remember the Olympic spirit. You know, on the Drudge Report, there's the video of the poor young teenager that was beaten to death last week. You know, we lost this because of internal politics in the IOC between the U.S. Olympic Committee and the International Olympic Committee, and we just weren't sharp enough in the White House or here in Chicago to understand there were larger politics at play. I mean, our ego you know, is a little bit too large at times. Humility is a good thing for everybody, and I think we got a good piece of that this time. But on the violence issue, I mean, if the mayor could keep all these civic people together, all this energy he's been able to bundle, and give him credit for pulling this all together, if he could now redirect that at the violence issue and the education issue. Education is the key in this town, and young black men don't graduate from high school. Young black women don't graduate from high school. The Hispanic numbers are the same. They don't graduate from high school. More than 50% are out there without jobs, without an education. And where are they going to go? They have to go to the street to make a living. And so that's where the violence comes from. You have to work on our education system. And I think if he could just bundle this and take that energy, I mean, we'd be so much better off for it. So he's proven something by pulling us all together. The business community in this town has been comatose for a long time. He was able to wake it up and pull it in. And if he could redirect it to something like our future and our generations of children that we're losing on the streets, it would be wonderful.
Thom Serafin, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for coming.
I don't want to get on my soapbox.
That's all right.
That's why we have you here.
Better you than us, right?
I'm glad you're on it, so
Thanks for coming in, Thom.
Thank you.